I can't bear to watch this. This is too much. Why did you make me watch this video? Is it over yet?
Alexis, make it stop!
Okay, so today we are in for another negotiation lesson from TV and movies. So this time, my producers have picked another show that I haven't seen and don't know what it is. I am Bob Bordone. I'm a senior fellow at Harvard Law School, where I founded and directed Harvard's Negotiation and Mediation Clinical Program. So this is Negotiation Expert Reacts Raw. Let's go.
She is a sweet little lady. She's a widow. She works hard, all day, every day, just like her mother before her, from dawn till dusk, scrubbing the floors of rich people. She needs a cane to walk, you know? She's got arthritis, and still she works every day. What, for herself? No, not for them, for these two.
You know, one of the strategies negotiators need to think about is, do I take a rational approach, or do I take an emotional or pulling at the heartstrings approach? Saul here seems to be going in the latter direction, right? Using emotions, using narrative and story to pull at the heartstrings of the other character, which my producers told me has the name Tuco.
Her boys are apples of her eye. You say they don't deserve her? Maybe so. But they're all she's got. Now, you turn them inside out. I want you to think about what happens to her.
No, that's on them. They should have thought about that.
When I was at your abuelita's place, you were gonna let them go. Way I see it, that's because you're tough, but you're fair. You're all about justice.
I love this, right? So one of the things that I always say is that most human beings, even bad guys, actually think of themselves as being fair. And here, Saul is, in his mind, he might think Tuco is this, criminal. By the way, I don't know what the story's about, but, from this scene, Tuco looks to me like a bad guy. He might be a good guy. Looks to me like a bad guy who has two hostages and, a knife. But what does he do? He nonetheless makes an appeal to fairness. And then what he does, right, is he flatters. He's like, you're tough too. Okay, I can't wait to see what happens next.
That's what I'm saying. Justice.
These two shit for brains, these big mouths, you already beat the living hell out of them. Do you think they're ever gonna forget today? Never. 10 years from now, it's still gonna be crapping their jockeys.
It's not enough.
Okay. Then let's talk proportionality. They're guilty. Yeah. Agreed. Now you have to decide what's the right sentence.
Like a judge.
Like a judge. Ever hear of the Code of Hammurabi?
Notice what's happening, right? Appeals to fairness, but also appeals to justice. Again, nothing about this would make you think Tuco cares a lot about justice. And yet, right, the way we're hardwired as human beings, most human beings actually think of themselves as justice-oriented and as fairness-oriented. Plus, we could see Saul here is actually getting some traction.
Yeah! Congratulations.
Oh, but before we keep going, there's this other interesting thing that's going on, right? This looks like a two-party negotiation, but in a way, it's a multi-party negotiation. I should have noticed this. The way the camera spans what seemed to me to be Tuco's two co-conspirators, or at least his assistants, right? What I see as I look at this is Tuco in his heart of hearts has been persuaded, but he has another interest here. He has to look tough. He has to look like he's the boss. This negotiation is much more complicated than it might seem, because somehow he has to get himself out of this situation without looking like he caved in front of these, what I imagine to be either his cronies or his assistants or his co-conspirators in some way. So let's see how that lands.
But the punishment for the crime? Eye for an eye?
Eye for an eye. You want me to blind them?
No. All they did was trash talk.
So I cut their tongues out!
Wait. See, I'm advising that you make the punishment fit the crime.
Punishment fit the crime. Colombian neckties. I cut their throats and then I pull their live tongues through.
Well, you know what? I got to tell you, in negotiation, we talk about moving from interests to brainstorming options. Saul has clearly persuaded Tuco to, he's gotten the interest, right? Fairness and justice, right? We got that right. Now we're brainstorming options. I mean, these are pretty sicko options, gouging your eyes out, cutting out your tongue, but we're at least generating options.
Slits! Snatch!
Or you could give them black eyes.
Black eyes? That ain't nothing.
A mistake. Let Tuco do all the brainstorming, right? When Saul comes up with the idea, Tuco's automatically going to dismiss it. Why? Because of something called reactive devaluation. What is reactive devaluation? So there's a whole bunch of research on this, right? When you're brainstorming, when someone else brings up an idea, as human beings, we're automatically inclined to discount how good of an idea that is. So this research actually started in the 1980s with some professors at Stanford. They basically came up with a nuclear disarmament plan. And they went to Stanford students, and with some Stanford students, they said, this plan was proposed by President Ronald Reagan of the United States. Rate it as how favorable you think it is to the United States. Then they took the same exact plan, but they put it in front of some different students, and they said, this plan was proposed by Soviet leader Mikhail Gorbachev. Rate it as how favorable it is to the United States. Well, guess what? When it was described as being from President Reagan, students described it or evaluated it as much more in favor of the United States than when the same exact plan was described or said to come from Mikhail Gorbachev. So in a negotiation, right, I always want the other side to come up with as many of the ideas because there's this risk that if it's seen as my idea, the other side will actually devalue it. I mean, Saul, don't you know about reactive devaluation? Come on, buddy.
There, Holmes. He already got a black eye, fool.
Stop helping.
We could sprain their ankles.
Sprain.
They're skateboarders, right? That's how they run their scam. They can't skate, you hit them where they live.
I sprain nothing. I'm gonna break their arms. I'm gonna break their legs.
Arms? When did we get onto arms?
I'm cutting their legs off.
We could go that way, but we were talking about breaking. I think we're heading in the wrong direction.
Okay. Break their legs.
How many legs?
2. They got 2 legs.
One leg.
Each 1 leg each?
We've gotten to that part of the negotiation where we're haggling. Is it 2 legs or 1 leg? But, I mean, there's been progress here.
1 leg each. That total of 2 legs. Hey, look. They can't skateboard for 6 months, and they're scared of you forever. And you show everybody that you are the man, but that you're fair, that you're just.
One leg each.
That's tough. That's fair.
Right, lay them out. Ain't got all day. It's hunters.
Man, getting to yes. This is the opposite of creating value. It's like destroying value, but it's a brilliant scene, right? Because there's so much cool stuff that goes on here where Saul understands that people like to see themselves as tough and fair. when you are negotiating with someone who has a lot more power, appealing, admitting that they have the power, right? But then appealing to their sense of justice, appealing to their sense of fairness, then giving them a chance to come up with options that would meet those interests of, in this case, toughness and fairness, right? We see that brainstorming thing going really, really well until Saul makes the mistake of coming up with his own ideas. What do I have to say about the end when we're haggling over, is it, 2 arms and 2 legs each, or just 2 legs each, or maybe 2 legs or 1 leg each? Here's what I would say, right? Even the most artful and skillful negotiations based on objective criteria, which by the way, there are none here, but when they're based on objective criteria, sometimes at the end of the day, you're still doing a little bit of haggling. So, in a perverse way, I want to call this a real win for Saul and a real win for Tuco, because he looks good in front of his cronies. He is tough. He feels like he's meted out fairness and justice. Now, as for these 2 dudes who were having their legs broken, I think you got to assess that in relative terms. They are about ready to get killed or otherwise dismembered or their tongue cut out. Broken leg, not great, but they'll live to see another day. Okay, hey, do you like watching these clips with me? If so, keep watching, because this one is on my favorite show, Schitt's Creek. If you have other clips for me to dissect, please put them in the comments section below. I am Bob Bordone. Thanks for hanging out with me. Keep on watching and let's keep negotiating together. Here's the video I told you about. So you may as well start binging all my React videos right now. Here's one to start with.